Welcome back, everybody. My name is Rustin.
I'm Tammy.
Oh, you beat me to it. I'm Mike Basil.
Who are you? Mike Basil. Great. Well, glad you're here. And this is week 6 for us in the Lenten practice of reading the book of Faith That Will Not Fail by Michelle Couchette. And we are in the week of perspective. And day 4 of that week is dreaming of heaven. And so I think there's a lot of mixed feelings about this chapter among us. Not one of my favorites, but that's part of how my faith lives out. And I think that's one of the things I want us to keep bringing up are places where everything that's in a book, you don't have to hold, you don't have to,
Sure.
right? We are engaging on this journey together in faith in different ways. And if this is something that's helpful for you, great. That's why we're introducing a new concept. If it's not, it's all good.
Yeah, for me, for today, this idea of how Couchette writes heaven, it seems like it's a place that's to come. And for me, I've always lived as though we're trying to be co-creators with God in a heaven that's both today and to come. And so
You are so Lutheran.
It kind of feels like giving up. If you're waiting for heaven to be a far off place, then what's my role in today? And so in this perspective shifting for this week, I don't want to just look ahead to heaven, but I also want to kind of focus on how can I make heaven come to earth in this moment, and what does that look like?
I mean, our theology is so different than other parts of the church, right? We prayed every week, your kingdom come, your will be done when? On earth as in heaven. And so Lutherans, we have a very different way of understanding that we are, like you said, co-creators of God. We are God's hands and feet here and now. And so,
and heaven is here and now, right? And
yeah.
to come. And like, again, I think that's a beautiful piece of this. Like when we're talking about perspectives and expanding our perspective with God as a practice, that this what we're talking about may be a perspective shift for you. You may not even heard these things before. And that's great too. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
And part of the perspective challenge for us is how do we dream of that to come space, right? This is not something I do in my own faith journey. I don't think a lot about heaven, the proverbial crystal seas and golden great gates and golden floors and pearly gates.
Pearly
and all that
gates,
stuff, right?
yes.
Like I don't spend time in my life processing that. I'm much more interested in the physical here and now creation of heaven on earth. And so there is this beauty of being able to think about, like I did a funeral this week where reading the Jesus passage in John where he says, I go to prepare a place for you. And it has many rooms and you know where it is. And Thomas is like, I have no idea what you're talking about, Jesus. I don't know where it is. And he's like, if you know me, you know God, you know the place. It's all good, right? And so there is this piece of comfort, this piece of connection that comes in knowing that God's gone before us and is preparing a place for us.
Yeah, and I like the idea. I mean, you talk about you don't dream of heaven, but you do dream of heaven, but it's different, right? You always talk about dreaming of the here and now. Where are ways we can make impacts, differences, And I think for us, it's looking at heaven just a different way. We get to participate with bringing those moments to people in here and now who are going through literal hell, and we can impact their lives in such a way where they begin to see this God who's with them and not afar off.
I think for today's 5-minute faith builder, reading Revelation 21, and what I said earlier, that I don't necessarily believe as heaven and pearly gates, white clouds, and yet it is not yet. And so we can still read Revelation 21 and just say, God, I believe in a new heaven and a new earth, and what's sticking out for me, and ask for that perspective shift.